Hello everyone, March W13 here with another hotel review, and this week we are at the San Luis Resort on the seawall in Galveston, Texas, just south of Houston. And we are on the 14th floor in room 1420. I'll show you the room in a second. Well, obviously we're in the hallway now, and I just wanted to show you the sort of bay side of the island. On the back side of the hotel there's a very historic and allegedly haunted cemetery that you ought to be able to see in the center of your screen. And then if you look towards the back of this scene, you ought to see Moody Gardens with a couple of pyramids there that house a rainforest and an aquarium, sort of a museum slash amusement attraction. And then you simply see the historic island of Galveston. There's a cruise port back there towards the other side of the island, and a historic district called the Strand. This property is a resort in the truest sense of the word, so it does have its own tennis courts and a spa and a pool, and really not going to focus on those items in this review. We're just going to look at the view, but I did want to show you this view, which includes Galveston Bay and the causeway that you cross from the mainland to access this island on which we sit. So, without further ado, let's enter this room here. You get a nice room card here, which includes a photo of the resort down by the pool area, and the door has a proximity sensor. As you can see, we have a fairly simple room, but as you may have noted based on the view from the hallway, it's really all about these gorgeous panoramic vistas up here from the 14th floor. And we'll see the view from the ocean side of the island here from our balcony just beyond those curtains here in a couple of moments. But first, a quick tour of the room, and we'll start with the closet. And in our closet we have nothing particularly special, about 10 relatively ordinary hangers, a laundry bag, ironing board, stand for our luggage, iron itself, and some supplementary bedding items. No safe, but I'll show you that part of the equation in a moment. And now we turn our attention to the bathroom. We have a nice frosted sliding door here with plenty of privacy. And everything here in this room, I think, is very simple, very elegant. You don't get a sense of stuffiness or the resort striving to be something that it's not. It's just very utilitarian in a good way, and modern, particularly for a beach resort, and clearly a step above other such resorts in the area. This is not I think, a five diamond resort. It is for nothing. So we have a very sort of modern looking basin here, a single basin with a nice stone countertop, molten brown, not to be confused with Alton Brown from the Food Network. Bath amenities, some more things over here, plenty of towels and some disposable cups, and some tasteful modern artwork, and a tub that sort of doubles as a walk-in shower. And as we proceed into the main living space, you'll notice again just very modern appointments. I think there's evidence, although I don't recall ever having stayed at this hotel before, there's evidence here clearly that this hotel has been renovated within probably the last decade, probably even more recently. You can just tell by all of the furnishings and fixtures and that sort of thing, as well as some of the useful amenities. Each of these bedside lamps have plenty of outlets, which are accompanied by 2 more electrical outlets and USB outlets on the desk here, which are backed up by additional outlets, again associated with each of the lighting fixtures. So with respect to the bed, there's a lot of give, as you can see, but it's also quite springy, and it's sort of pillow topish in the sense that it gets a bit harder once you sink down a bit. Overall, I would say I would anticipate that it's going to be a fairly comfortable sleep this evening. Gideon Bible in the drawer. Not a lot of wear and tear on this room that I observed. Certainly, the lampshades showed a tear here and there that you might or you may not notice. But overall, again, everything seems quite modern, including this digital air conditioning console here. There's a set temperature. Again, evidence that that this has been renovated. Light switches here on the wall for the entryway. With respect to this sort of entertainment center slash chest of drawers, one of the things I noticed about the TV was that there was a QR code that you could scan, and it brings up just on the web browser of your phone, an interface for changing the channel on the remote. And it was a very pain-free process, and in these COVID-ridden times, I'm sure that it has its sanitation advantages as well. And we have yet more modern touches with some rather trendy looking shelves stocked with some rather trendy looking artistic travel books, which could be some interesting reading lately. They look like they're sort of appropriately tropical or beach themed. And then we have an empty shelf, as you can stock it with your own reading material, and sort of standard fare for resort hotels these days. A Keurig machine. This one looks relatively new, which is a good thing. And in lieu of a mini bar, there is a fridge, and I found that I'd say, you may disagree with me, but around 80% of these refrigerators do not operate at all. But this one actually does. You may be able to hear it, and it did come stocked with some hotel branded water, and a relatively good sized water. And it is, I think you might be able to see the sort of condensation frostiness on the outside of the bottle there. So it is indeed cooling, and there's plenty of space in here, and I've already stocked it with some Evian. Everything else here is relatively standard, except that we have fairly inconspicuously placed and fairly deep, as you can see, although not very tall, safe. So that's a nice touch, and it to be sort of co-located with maybe other valuables here. I think temporarily I just placed some electronics here, but I can migrate those to the safe. More drawer space, and of course an ice bucket. And then with respect to the business slash productivity and seating areas here, we have what looks like perhaps an ergonomically adjustable but armrestless and nonetheless very sleek chair. And again, everything is just sort of Spartan but functional and nonetheless elegant. Difficult to describe, but definitely sort of the here and the now, so to speak. And because of the COVID protocols, you can tell a lot of the superfluous things that you would find, like room service menus and amenity lists and stationery and that sort of thing, are absent here. I don't see any pads of paper and pens either. And honestly, I'm not sure I missed them. This particular item here is a wristband, and it, I believe, provides access to things like the pool and perhaps exercise facilities and other parts of the resort that are restricted to guests only. And they actually did provide this printed list at the check-in desk that addresses sort of the new housekeeping policies, as well as lists all of the restaurants. This is a property that I believe is owned by Landry's, and certainly all of the restaurants are Landry's brands. And there's a very, very nice pool. Hopefully we'll have a chance to look at that, and maybe in a separate video we'll show you all of these things up close, all of these amenities, but perhaps we'll see the pool from afar when we gaze out to the ocean from the balcony. But before we do this, again, a very comfortable, very modern looking, and certainly not cheap looking, and I sat in it earlier. It's relatively comfortable as well, chair with ottoman, consistent theming, decor, not necessarily what you would expect from a beach resort. There isn't that sort of cheesy beach or Margaritaville-like theme. But I would say that the sort of generally sandy color scheme, along with maybe the subtleties of the modern art that allude to beaches and ocean water and sands and sunsets, sort of complement the locale appropriately. And as I mentioned before, things like room service menus are a thing of the past, but room service itself is not. And again, there are, it seems like 4 or 5 restaurants at this property, and so there are certainly kitchens galore. And if you would like to have some of that food delivered to you, then you can just scan this QR code, and the room service menu shall appear. And there it is. You have appetizers, tacos, breakfast, burgers, and some entrees, and beer and wine. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the moment we've all been waiting for, the big reveal. I present to you, without further ado, the Gulf of Mexico. As I pan across Seawall Boulevard. See the remainder of the resort. And this is a rather spacious and certainly a very clean and well appointed balcony with 2 seats and a little table there. And check out the pool area. Certainly a must visit in a resort such as this one. Plenty of folks laying out, getting some sun here in early October. Absolutely perfect weather on the Gulf Coast. And of course you can see there appears to be an active swim up in pool bar, as well as some cabanas and some other sort of private areas. This hotel is built atop an old fort, I believe, Fort Crockett, and if I'm not mistaken, there may be some vestiges of that fort out in the front, which is an area that I haven't visited. And again, perhaps I'll have an opportunity to make a separate video covering all of that. But again, very conveniently located. The beach is just right across the street, and the peak, of course, would have been spring break and summer, when the humidity is near 100% and the temperatures are near or above 100 as well. But as we stand here in early October, all of the tourists have fled, and we're left with the island pretty much all to ourselves, with high temperatures in the low 80s or upper 70s, and I believe low temperatures tonight in the 60s. So it ought to be absolutely perfect. All right, well, thank you once again for joining me. Again, this was the San Luis Resort and Hotel in Galveston, Texas on Seawall Boulevard, and we were on the 14th floor in room 1420 in an ocean view room. And in these challenging COVID times, I wish you great health and continued good but safe travels. Until next time, Marsh W13 signing out.